the abduction. The scent of neem and turmeric hung heavy in the air of Anya's small clinic. Outside, the monsoon season was nearing its end, leaving the air thick and humid. Inside, the rhythmic wheezing of young Pong filled the room. Anya carefully placed her stethoscope on the boy's chest, her brow furrowed in concentration. Pneumonia. Common, but deadly if left untreated in these remote villages. He needs antibiotics, she told Pasang's mother, her voice gentle but firm. She reached for a vial from her meager supply, a constant battle to replenish given the unreliable supply chains. 3 times a day, after meals. I will show you. As she drew the medication, a shadow fell across the doorway. Not the familiar shadow of the mountains, but something wrong. Anya glanced up, her hand instinctively tightening on the syringe. The sky. It wasn't the sky she knew. Gone was the comforting expanse of blue, replaced by an unnatural, shimmering darkness. A colossal, obsidian shape hung suspended, eclipsing the sun. Fear, cold and sharp, pierced through Anya's calm facade. The villagers outside were screaming, pointing. Before she could react, a beam of intense blue light erupted from the ship, piercing through the clinic's flimsy roof. It enveloped her, a searing heat that stole her breath and numbed her senses. She saw Pasang's mother recoil in terror, her face a mask of pure fright. Then, darkness. Anya gasped, her head throbbing. The metallic tang of blood filled her nostrils. She lay on a cold, hard surface, disoriented and weak, blinking against the harsh, white light. She struggled to focus. The air hummed with an unnatural energy, a low, persistent thrumming that vibrated through her bones. She was no longer in her clinic. The familiar scent of herbs and earth was gone, replaced by sterile, antiseptic odors. Around her, tall, slender figures moved with an unsettling grace. They were humanoid, but alien. Their skin was a smooth, chitinous gray, their eyes large and black, devoid of pupils. They wore sleek, silver armor that seemed to meld seamlessly with their bodies. KRYL. Anya had only heard whispers of them, chilling tales passed around in hushed tones. The invaders. The destroyers. She dismissed them as folklore, as bedtime stories meant to scare children. Now, they were real. And they had her point. One of the KRYL approached, its movements fluid and precise. It spoke in a language she didn't understand, a series of clicks and whistles that grated on her ears. Anya stared back, her heart pounding against her ribs. Where am I? She managed to croak, her voice raspy. The KRYL tilted its head, its black eyes studying her. With an unnerving intensity. It gestured to a console beside the platform where Anya lay. The console glowed with intricate symbols and patterns that shifted and pulsed with light. A deeper voice cut through the air, speaking in heavily accented but understandable English. You are aboard the KRYL Supremacy, Doctor. Anya turned her head. Standing at the edge of the platform was a KRYL clad in darker, more ornate armor. He was taller than the others, his posture radiating an air of authority. This must be the commander. Thrax, if she recalled the rumors correctly. He stepped forward, his gaze unwavering. You have been brought here for your expertise. Anya swallowed, trying to regain her composure. Expertise? I am a doctor. A village doctor. Thrax's lips, thin and almost invisible, curved into a slight, almost imperceptible, sneer. Your primitive methods are of interest to us. We have observed your unorthodox treatments, your success rate. He paused, his gaze sweeping over her with a mixture of curiosity and disdain. You will assist us, Doctor. You will cure our warriors. Or face the consequences. The hum of the ship intensified, a constant reminder of her captivity. Anya met Thrax's gaze, her fears slowly hardening into defiance. They may have taken her from her home, from her people, but they would not break her. She was Anya Sharma, and she would survive this. She always did. Primitive practices. The cold metal of the examination table bit into Anya's back. Above her, a cluster of KRYL, all sharp angles and obsidian eyes, buzzed with a detached curiosity that made her skin crawl. They poked and prodded with instruments that hummed with an unsettling energy, their touch clinical, devoid of any warmth. Subject's cellular structure is chaotic, one KRYL murmured, his voice a low, resonant drone. Inconsistent energy signatures. Primitive. Anya bit back a retort. Primitive? She'd set broken bones with river clay and healed burns with aloe vera when their fancy technology would have left scars. She swallowed her anger and focused on breathing. What are these markings? Another Kerwylel asked, his slender, multi-jointed finger tracing the intricate henna designs on her hands. Ritualistic scarring? A sign of lower sentience? They're henna, Anya said, her voice tight. A traditional art form, and they have cooling properties. She tried to explain the science behind it, how the plant compounds interacted with skin to lower body temperature, but her words were met with blank stares. Irrelevant, the first Kerwylel declared. We will administer a neurosuppressant to stabilize her erratic brainwaves. Anya's eyes widened. No, you can't just, my brainwaves are fine. I meditate. It's a practice to calm the mind, to focus energy. The Kerwylel doctor closest to her scoffed. Meditation? A placebo effect. At best. We operate on quantifiable data, not unsubstantiated claims of energy. He moved closer with a syringe filled with a viscous, purple liquid. Stop! Anya shouted, trying to sit up, but two Kerwylel quickly restrained her. That's when Commander Thrax entered the room. He stood in the doorway, his imposing figure casting a long shadow. His face was a mask of stoic observation, but Anya sensed a flicker of something unreadable in his dark eyes. Report, Thrax commanded, his voice resonating with authority. The lead Kerwylel doctor straightened. Commander, the subject exhibits unstable biological functions and irrational behavior. We are preparing to administer a neurosuppressant to ensure compliance. Thrax's gaze flickered from the doctor to Anya, who was now struggling against her restraints. He saw the fear in her eyes, the frustration etched on her face. Explain this irrational behavior, Thrax said, his tone neutral. The doctor gestured dismissively towards Anya. She claims these adornments possess medicinal properties. She speaks of energy fields and traditional practices with no scientific basis. Clearly, her primitive upbringing has clouded her judgment. Anya gritted her teeth. She had to make them understand. I can help you, she said, her voice trembling but firm. I understand the human body. I can treat illnesses you haven't even encountered before. But you have to listen to me. The doctor exchanged a condescending glance with his colleagues. Commander, with all due respect, we cannot rely on such archaic methods. Our technology is far superior. Thrax remained silent for a long moment, his gaze fixed on Anya. He saw not just a frightened prisoner, but a defiant spark. A resourcefulness that reminded him, unsettlingly, of his own stubborn will. Release her, Thrax finally said, his voice cutting through the sterile hum of the room. The Kerwylel doctors hesitated, their faces betraying their surprise. Commander, but... Release her, Thrax repeated, his voice laced with steel. I will decide how this asset is to be utilized. Anya watched as the Kerwylel reluctantly removed the restraints. She sat up slowly, rubbing her wrists, her eyes never leaving Thrax. He was an enigma, a creature of cold logic and calculated decisions. But in that moment she saw a flicker of something else. A willingness to consider the possibility that perhaps, just perhaps, primitive wasn't always synonymous with useless. Crimson Tide. A Kerwylel soldier, his chitinous armor gleaming dully under the sterile white lights of the medical bay, vomited a cascade of crimson. It wasn't blood, not exactly. It was something else. A viscous, luminescent fluid that steamed slightly as it hit the polished floor, etching a faint, bloody stain. Quarantine Sector Gamma 9 is compromised. A Kerwylel medic droned, his multifaceted eyes scanning the readings on his diagnostic panel. His voice, usually a monotone of efficient instruction, held a thread of barely suppressed fear. Patient mortality in that sector has reached 70%, transferring all remaining subjects to Delta 4. Commander Thrax observed the chaos from a raised platform overlooking the bay. The air, usually filtered and pristine, now smelled faintly of ozone and something metallic, something acrid. The crimson rot. They called it that for a reason. He'd seen plagues before, skirmishes with biological weapons from less civilized races. But nothing like this. This This was an unraveling. He watched as another soldier collapsed, his body convulsing violently. The medical drones swarmed, injecting serums, applying neural stimulators, their delicate manipulators working with frantic speed. But it was useless. He knew it. The reports were clear. The rot was adapting, mutating faster than their algorithms could predict. Thrax turned to a nearby medic, his voice a low growl. "The cure. Is it ready?" The medic flinched, his antennae twitching nervously. "Commander, the Terran compound is proving resistant. The rot's cellular structure is exhibiting unexpected levels of plasticity. It is circumventing the designed inhibitors." "Resistant?" Thrax's gaze narrowed, a flicker of something akin to fury in his dark eyes. "Resistant is unacceptable. Increase the dosage. Modify the delivery method. Do whatever is necessary." He knew, logically, that the medic was relaying information, not offering excuses. But the KRYL Empire had always been defined by its mastery of technology, its absolute control over its environment. This rampant, uncontrollable decay was an affront to everything they stood for. The medic bowed his head. "We are proceeding with all possible measures, Commander. But the rot's spread, it is exponential. We are losing soldiers faster than we can treat them." Thrax turned back to the scene below. Rows upon rows of KRYL soldiers lay motionless on biobeds, their bodies ravaged by the disease. The sterile white of the medical bay was now awash in the crimson tide of the rot. He had authorized the use of Anya's cure for the first wave of affected soldiers, those deemed vital to the war effort. Now, even that was failing. His thoughts turned, unbidden, to the Terran medic. Anya. He had dismissed her initially, considered her primitive technology laughable. But her cure, it had shown promise. He remembered her defiance, her unwavering belief in her methods. Perhaps, he thought, staring at the crimson stains spreading across the floor, there was more to her than he had initially perceived. Perhaps, her primitive understanding of organic systems was something they needed to consider. His calm buzzed urgently. It was General Forlag. "Commander, the rot has breached containment. It's spreading to the engineering sectors. We're experiencing critical system failures." Thrax closed his eyes for a moment, a rare display of internal conflict. The carefully constructed, sterile environment of their ships, their cities, their very existence, was proving to be their undoing. They had purged the natural world, creating a bubble of artificial perfection, and now nature was fighting back, with a vengeance. A glimmer of hope. The stench was almost unbearable. Anya adjusted her makeshift mask, a double layer of scavenged cloth, and peered into the makeshift infirmary. Rows of KRYL soldiers lay on cots fashioned from salvaged ship plating, their thick exoskeletons marred by festering lesions that pulsed with a sickly green light. The air thrummed with a low, guttural moan, a chorus of pain that resonated through her bones. Commander Thrax, his mandibles twitching in what she assumed was a sign of agitation, stood beside her. "Satisfied, Sharma? Witness the futility." His voice, even translated through the universal implant, was rough, edged with despair. Anya ignored the condescension. She moved closer, her gaze fixed on one of the afflicted KRYL. The infection seemed to be consuming them from the inside, the glowing pustules spreading like a malignant bloom. "May I?" She gestured hesitantly towards the soldier. Thrax barked a curt order. A KRYL medic, his own face pale with worry, stepped forward and adjusted the lighting, focusing it on the prone soldier. Anya knelt, carefully avoiding any direct contact, and began her examination. She observed the patterns of the lesions, the way they seemed to follow the lines of the exoskeleton. She touched the edge of one pustule with a sterilized tool, recoiling slightly at the heat it radiated. "The progression is rapid," she said, stating the obvious. "Have you identified the source?" "Irrelevant," Thrax snapped. "Our best minds are baffled. Their science, centuries ahead of yours, is useless against this plague." Anya straightened, her back stiff. "With respect, Commander, perhaps your science is looking in the wrong direction." She had an idea, a long shot based on her understanding of Earth's complex microbial ecosystems, but she knew it wouldn't be easy to sell. Later, in a sterile briefing room, Anya stood before a panel of KRYL doctors and Thrax. Holographic projections of infected tissues swirled in the air, showcasing the devastation. She cleared her throat. I believe I have a hypothesis. The infection, it appears to be susceptible to a specific type of living antibiotic. A ripple of dismissive murmurs ran through the KRYL medics. Thrax remained impassive. Anya pressed on, explaining her theory. On Earth, we use carefully cultivated microorganisms to combat infections. We call it phage therapy. My proposal is to introduce a carefully balanced cocktail of these microbes into the KRYL physiology. These microbes will identify and consume the pathogen without harming the host. One of the KRYL doctors, his multifaceted eyes narrowed, spoke in a clipped tone. You propose introducing foreign organisms into our soldiers? It is barbaric, unscientific. You speak of microbial cocktails as if we are brewing some primitive potion. With all due respect, Anya replied, her voice unwavering. Your advanced technology has failed you. My methods, though perhaps unorthodox, offer a glimmer of hope. Thrax's gaze bored into her. And if your glimmer of hope extinguishes what little life remains in our soldiers? Anya met his gaze, her own resolute. Then you will be no worse off than you are now. But if it works... She let the unspoken possibility hang in the air. The unthinkable trial. The hollow display flickered, casting an eerie blue light across Commander Thrax's grim face. The High Command has authorized a trial. He rasped, the word tasting like ash in his mouth. 5 soldiers, terminal, they are expendable. He spat the word out as if it were a curse. Anya stood firm, her jaw tight. 5 is better than none, Commander. I need access to the hydroponics bay, the nutrient vats, and a sterile environment. She knew better than to show her relief. This was barely a sliver of the chance she needed, but it was a chance nonetheless. Thrax grunted, his mandibles clicking in agitation. The resources are strained, Sharma. The plague, it takes everything. Then we prioritize. Anya countered, her voice unwavering. These 5 lives, and the potential to save countless others, are worth more than decorative algae blooms, Commander. She refused to back down, meeting his gaze directly. The hydroponics bay was a shadow of its former glory, wilting, yellowed plants clinging desperately to life. Anya surveyed the scene, her heart sinking. She needed specific ingredients for her earth cure, not just any plant matter would do. Ginger root for its anti-inflammatory properties, garlic for its antibiotic punch, and honey, a natural antiseptic and energy booster. Sourcing these on a dying alien world felt impossibly challenging. Days blurred into a frantic search. Anya bartered with weary KRYL farmers, offering dwindling medical supplies for handfuls of withered herbs. She scavenged abandoned research labs, her hopes rising and crashing with each empty vial and broken machine. Slowly, painstakingly, she cobbled together what she needed. The sterile environment was a repurposed medical bay. Cleaned and sterilized until it gleamed under the harsh lights. 5 KRYL soldiers lay on biobeds, their chitinous bodies ravaged by the plague. Their breathing was labored, their eyes dull with pain and resignation. Anya felt a pang of empathy, a shared understanding of suffering that transcended species. She prepared the cure with meticulous care, grinding the dried ginger and garlic into a fine powder, mixing it with the last of her precious honey, and diluting it with purified water. The resulting concoction was a thick, earthy-smelling paste. The first soldier, barely more than a boy, looked at Anya with a flicker of something akin to hope in his fading eyes. She carefully applied the paste to his lesions, the pungent aroma filling the room. He flinched slightly but didn't resist. This will help, he rasped, his voice weak. I hope so, Anya replied honestly. It's what we used on Earth. She treated each soldier in turn, her movements precise and gentle. When she was finished, she stepped back, her heart pounding in her chest. Now all she could do was wait. The fate of these 5 KRYL, and perhaps the future of their entire species, rested on the effectiveness of her Earth cure. The silence in the bay was thick with apprehension, broken only by the rasping breaths of the dying soldiers and the quiet hum of the life support systems. The miracle of life. The tremor in Anya's hands hadn't stopped since the first dose, not from fear, but from a taut, humming energy that thrummed through her. Today was the day, day 5 of the trial. The day they'd know if her cocktail of soil microbes, carefully cultured and concentrated, was a colossal waste of time or something else. She adjusted the sterile mask clinging to her face, the recycled air doing little to quell the clammy heat. HFY medicine, even with their advanced technology, had proven useless against the blight. But Earth, with its chaotic, teeming biosphere, might just hold the key. Inside the transparent isolation chamber, the 5 HFY soldiers lay motionless. Their once iridescent exoskeletons were dulled, marred by creeping gray rot. Tubes snaked from their bodies, feeding them synthesized nutrients. Anya held her breath as she scanned the vitals monitor. Nothing. And then, a flicker point. One of the soldiers, the one Thrax had identified as Krell, twitched a claw. The movement was barely perceptible, but it was there. A collective gasp rippled through the HFY medical team, observing from behind the reinforced glass. Dr. Voss, whose face was usually a mask of impassivity, actually stumbled back a step. Impossible, he rasped, his voice distorted by the translator. The necrosis. It should be progressing. Anya leaned closer, her heart hammering against her ribs. Krell twitched again, and this time, a guttural sound, like a rusty hinge protesting, escaped his mandibles. His multifaceted eyes, usually a vacant black, flickered with a faint, nascent light. One by one, the other soldiers began to exhibit similar signs. A tremor here, a gurgling sigh there. The gray rot, Anya noticed with growing elation, seemed to be receding, replaced by the faintest glimmer of their original carapace color. Thrax entered the observation room, his heavy footsteps echoing in the sterile space. He stood, a silent, imposing figure, his gaze fixed on the soldiers. His face, usually an emotionless slab of chitin, was etched with something akin to disbelief. He gestured to Dr. Voss. Explain. Voss, still visibly shaken, stammered. The Earth pathogen, it seems to be reversing the effects of the blight. The cellular decay is halting. In some cases, even regenerating. Thrax's gaze shifted to Anya. He didn't speak, but she could feel the weight of his scrutiny. It wasn't hostile, not anymore. It was calculating, measuring. Increase the dosage, he finally commanded, his voice low and resonant. Monitor them continuously. I want a full report within the hour. He paused, then added, almost as an afterthought. And Sharma, ensure her safety. As Thrax turned and strode out of the room, Anya allowed herself a small, weary smile. It was working. Against all odds, it was actually working. But this was just the beginning. The real challenge would be mass production, replicating the delicate balance of her cure on a scale that could treat the entire HFY population. And then, of course, there was the small matter of convincing them to trust her enough to let her do it. News spread like wildfire through the HFY medical facility. Whispers of Earth cure and miracle replaced the usual grim pronouncements of death and decay. The high command, Anya learned through clipped, terse transmissions, was demanding immediate results. Mass production was to begin immediately, regardless of resource expenditure. The HFY, it seemed, were desperate. Desperate enough to gamble on that primitive medicine of Earth. Sabotage. The nutrient vats hummed, a low, dissonant chorus that grated on Anya's nerves. She wiped a bead of sweat from her forehead, the recycled air in the repurposed munitions factory thick with the cloying sweetness of the HFY protein synthesis. Scaling up production was proving to be a nightmare. The HFY technology, while advanced in some respects, was frustratingly inflexible. Everything was designed for mass production of weapons, not delicate biological compounds. Concentration levels fluctuating again in Sector 4. Droned the emotionless voice of the automated system. Anya cursed under her breath. Another batch ruined. She stalked over to the diagnostics panel, her fingers flying across the alien interface. The data scrolled past in indecipherable glyphs, but she'd learned to recognize the patterns. The protein strands were unraveling, destabilizing at a crucial stage. It was like watching a tapestry disintegrate thread by thread. A shadow fell across the panel, Anya looked up to see Jack standing behind her, his multifaceted eyes gleaming with what she could only interpret as smug satisfaction. Having difficulties, Sharma? He purred, his voice a low rumble that vibrated in Anya's chest. Perhaps our methods are not so primitive after all. Anya bit back a sharp retort. Arguing with Jax was a waste of precious time. Just ironing out some kinks, she said, forcing a calm tone. The KYLL systems are unique. Jax chuckled, a dry, rasping sound. Indeed, uniquely superior. He lingered for a moment longer, his gaze lingering on the damaged batch, then glided away, his bioluminescent markings pulsing with an unsettling light. Anya turned back to the panel, a knot of unease tightening in her stomach. Jax's presence had been unnervingly coincidental. She reviewed the system logs, searching for anomalies, but everything appeared normal. Yet, the concentration fluctuations were too consistent, too targeted. It wasn't random. She decided to bypass the automated controls and manually adjust the nutrient feed. As she reached for the manual override, she noticed something out of place. A small, almost imperceptible shimmer on the access port. She touched it, and her fingers came away with a thin, oily residue. It was KRYL sealant, but not the kind used for these vats. This was a volatile, corrosive compound used in weapon calibration. A cold dread washed over Anya. Someone had deliberately tampered with the system, introducing a destabilizing agent to sabotage her work, and she knew exactly who was behind it. Jax. He wanted her to fail, to prove his own outdated methods were superior, to solidify his position within the KRYL hierarchy. His xenophobia and envy were a dangerous combination. But it wasn't just about ego. Commander Thrax had authorized the trial on 5 terminal soldiers. The cure was their only hope. If Anya failed, they would die. And Jax, in his petty ambition, was condemning them all. Anya straightened her shoulders, her anger hardening into a steely resolve. He had underestimated her. She wouldn't let him win. She had to find a way to counteract the sabotage. To stabilize the compound before it was too late. The clock was ticking. Truth and reconciliation. The KRYL medic, whose designation translated roughly to Leaf, blinked her multifaceted eyes in what Anya interpreted as concern. The samples. They showed degradation beyond expected parameters. Accelerated decay. Anya's gut clenched. Sabotage. She thanked Leaf with a small bow, then marched directly to Jorn's lab. The air hung thick with the metallic tang of untested compounds. Jorn, a tall, gaunt KRYL with a perpetual sneer etched onto his chitinous face, was hunched over a data screen. Jorn, Anya said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. I need to see your production logs for the last cycle. He straightened, his mandibles clicking in annoyance. Those are classified. What is this about, human? The Earth cure is failing, Anya stated, her voice gaining steel. Leaf's analysis shows deliberate corruption of the primary enzyme sequence. I believe you're responsible. Jorn scoffed. Absurd. I have dedicated my life to scientific advancement, unlike your primitive methods. Anya took a step closer, her eyes locking onto his. Your methods are killing our people. The crimson rot is spreading again. Show me the logs, Jorn. He hesitated, the sneer faltering. That was all Anya needed. She lunged, grabbing a data slate from his desk. He snarled and tried to wrestle it back, but Anya, fueled by fury and desperation, held on tight. She activated the slate's emergency broadcast function, sending a coded message to Commander Thrax's office. Guards! Jorn bellowed, but it was too late. The heavy thud of armored boots echoed down the corridor. 2 KRYL soldiers, their weapons drawn, entered the lab. Behind them strode Commander Thrax, his expression grim. Explain yourselves? Thrax commanded, his voice a low rumble. Anya presented the data slate, pointing to the manipulated enzyme sequences. Jorn has been deliberately sabotaging the Earth cure. The results from Leaf's analysis corroborate my findings. He's using a modified reverse transcriptase to destabilize the enzyme. Jorn sputtered, denying the accusations, but Thrax silenced him with a raised hand. The truth will be revealed. He gestured to the soldiers. Confine Jorn. initiate a full forensic audit of his lab. The investigation was swift and thorough. The evidence against Jorn was overwhelming. He had been systematically undermining Anya's work, hoping to discredit her and push his own, less effective, synthetic alternative. His motivation was simple: ambition and xenophobia. With Jorn removed and his sabotage exposed, the mass production of the Earth cure resumed immediately. Anya worked tirelessly, supervising every stage of the process, ensuring the purity and efficacy of each batch. Leaf assisted her knowledge of KRYL physiology proving invaluable in optimizing the delivery system. Within weeks, the tide began to turn. The crimson rot, which had threatened to consume the entire colony, receded. The sickly red patches on the KRYL's chitin faded, replaced by their natural iridescent sheen. The coughing subsided, the fever broke. Hope bloomed in the weary eyes of the afflicted. Anya became a symbol of that hope, a savior in their darkest hour. KRYL approached her in the corridors, offering gestures of gratitude, their mandibles clicking in a sign of respect. She received official commendations, but the heartfelt appreciation of the KRYL she had saved was the reward she truly valued. The Earth cure, once dismissed as primitive, was now lauded as a miracle. Homeward bound. Anya Sharma. The KRYL emissary's voice, still raspy from the Earth remedy, echoed in the now sterile chamber. The Council of Elders, at the behest of Commander Thrax, has deliberated. Your skills proved invaluable. The Council offers you a position of honor within our society, access to resources beyond your comprehension. A chance to shape our future. Anya, seated across from the KRYL, felt a pang of something akin to pity for the creature. Its chitinous face, though alien, seemed weary. I appreciate the offer, she said, her voice calm despite the tremor in her stomach. But I must decline. The emissary's multifaceted eyes flickered. Decline? Such an honor is unheard of. What possible reason could you have? My home is in Nepal, Anya explained, picturing the snow-capped peaks and the vibrant prayer flags fluttering in the wind. My people need me there. I am a healer, not a politician or a shaper of futures on KRYL. But think of the knowledge you could gain, the advancements you could facilitate. The emissary insisted, a hint of desperation creeping into its voice. We could provide you with technologies that would eradicate disease on your entire planet. Anya shook her head. My people don't need advanced technology to eradicate disease. They need clean water, proper sanitation, and access to basic medical care. Things that can be provided without dismantling the very fabric of their lives. She thought of the KRYL's cold, efficient methods, the way they'd viewed humanity as a resource to be exploited. Besides, she added, a wry smile touching her lips, I suspect you need me here more than my village does. The emissary remained silent for a long moment, processing her words. Finally, it nodded slowly. Very well. Your request is granted. We will provide safe passage back to your Nepal. Anya rose, a surge of relief washing over her. Thank you. The journey back to Earth was uneventful, the KRYL ship maintaining a respectful distance. As she stepped off the vessel onto the familiar dusty soil of Kathmandu, the scent of spices and incense filled her lungs. It was jarringly ordinary, a stark contrast to the sterile, metal world she had just left. She returned to her clinic, a small, unassuming building nestled in the foothills of the Himalayas. The familiar routine of treating patients, dispensing medicine, and offering comfort grounded her. The stories she had to tell remained untold, locked away in her memory. The KRYL experience felt like a fever dream, a surreal interlude in her otherwise ordinary life. One evening, months after her return, Anya sat on the small porch of her clinic, sipping chai and watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of orange and purple. A small boy with a persistent cough sat beside her, his mother's hand resting protectively on his shoulder. Anya felt a surge of contentment. This was her purpose, her place. Suddenly, a faint shimmer appeared in the sky, a distortion of the AIR. It was a KRYL ship, hovering silently in the distance. It remained there for a long moment, then slowly, deliberately, turned and disappeared into the vastness of space. On board the ship, Commander Thrax watched the small clinic recede from view. He had disobeyed protocol. Taking a moment to observe the woman who had saved his people, he saw her interacting with the villagers, her touch gentle, her eyes filled with compassion. He realized then that Anya's Sharma possessed a power far greater than any advanced technology, the power of empathy, of genuine human connection. A power the KRYL, in their relentless pursuit of efficiency, had long forgotten. He authorized the return journey to the KRYL home world. The Council of Elders would hear about the small planet with the primitive medicine. Perhaps, he mused, the KRYL had more to learn from Earth than they had initially thought.